Welcome everyone. So today I'm working on this TRX that I picked up recently. It was used, took it out for the first time, and had a little mishap and broke a bumper. It was thoroughly loved and abused, so I picked up a new front and rear bumper from Jenny RC. They were great folks to work with, so they didn't give it to me. I had to pay for it, but this was relatively inexpensive, and thought I'd give it a chance, see how it works. Little hooks, everything's plastic, basic. Actually came with the carrier connection point, but I'm going to use the existing one because it's identical. So this video is just a little replacement of the front and back bumper. The back bumper was okay, but I figured I'm going to match the bumpers and put them back together. This is very, very simple. But for those that haven't done this before, these screws that pull in, there's a post at the end. So you're thinking when you're taking these screws out, they get to the top and you're trying to slide that out, don't pull. Make sure the screw comes all the way out. It has to come all the way out or you're just going to be fighting it. And to put this bad boy in, it's pretty simple. Now I'm using a Bronco body here, and I did also pick up a set of Bronco bumpers, but I figure for the actual crawling and whatnot, this would work best. Where's that post? There we go. So right here, you can't put this in all the way. You got to go to the second to the last hole there, and when you do that, it brings this up tight up against the body, nice and snug. But it'll fit. There's no problems. I tried earlier moving it into the other spot, and it wouldn't work. So don't fight it. Work with it. Either that, or you need to trim your body. But if you're not using if you're using a stock body like I am for the Bronco, it's not a cheap body. Usually to replace them, they're a good $150. So I'd rather not trim that body. If I get into something else, I'll worry about trimming that at another time. These are that's really easy. You're using this what is it? These hex screwdrivers. I have a power one, but I've noticed when I'm using it and filming at the same time, it makes things a lot louder, and I didn't want to blow your ears out with it, so I usually will loosen up a lot of the screws so to save time for the video aspect of all of this. And you'll see this other bumper was huge. I mean, it was sticking out so far. The difference between these two is going to be night and day, I'm pretty sure. What I didn't do, so these are mostly backed out already, but as you'll see, I have to pull these out all the way. Because if you don't, you pull and pull and pull, it won't come out. You pull it out, and it'll slide out. A little dirty, a little gritty, but it comes right on out. Now this rear one, this is how it was shipped and received, just like this. So you got all the, it did not come with the other hardware for the sides. So that's something that you, if you didn't have it already, you would need that hardware. But more than likely you already have the mounting screws, unless you're building from scratch or you had some catastrophic accident. Now I'm pretty new to the crawlers. I'm pretty new to RC all in all, but this is my first real 10th scale crawler. You might be able to see in the background my indoor course, which I use with my SEX24 and my Atlas 6x6. Really fun. I've turned that, those of you who've been on the channel before have seen that, and looks like this bumper will fit pretty tight, and so it's not sticking out way far. So that'll give me an idea where it's going to sit when it looks like it's on the last hole, it looks like. So that's all the way in. I'm going to check that again now. That's pushed all the way in. Let me see if this is going to fit with it all the way in. Yeah, that's all the way in. So there's no, it's not rubbing or bumping. So, hey, if we look at the difference between the old one, maybe the other one was just pushed in really far. No, if I line up the holes, this one was out. It stuck out a good half, 3/4 of an inch further. Wasn't a bad little bumper setup. Came off of something else, not the TRX, that's for certain. I should say the TRX4, correct. So these are all offshoot bumpers, but it's plastic. I figure go with the plastic because metal is just gonna get ripped up. And if it falls hard, it's gonna bend, and well, it doesn't bend back really. And plastic has a lot more give. It was much cheaper. These are under $20. And I know this isn't a cheap hobby, but some of us have families and stuff to support as well. So we try to keep things reasonable. Spend a lot of my money on the wife and the kid and doing stuff like that. And I do this hobby with my daughter as well. Try to get my wife into it. She has no interest, but more for me, I suppose. So a little bit about this TRX4 now. We've got those bumpers in. It's obviously there's no wheels on it because I took them off. I took the shocks off and everything else. Let's see. So a lot of people talk about running full droop. And being new to the RC, when I first heard that, running droop, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I guess there are some different theories to what that means exactly. But the concept behind that is you're allowing the shocks to sit at their lowest point or at a lower point than normal. Now right now there are no shocks on this. I pulled them off. So this is just to see what this ultimate lowest point that it would sit at for a droop system. So if I lowered it as low as it can go versus as high as it can go, so there's your high point. I'm going to put on these back wheels so we can get a good look at this. Looks like the back end might hit this on. This is just being fitted up for testing purposes, nothing more than that. So this truck is pretty close to stock. There's not much on it at all. And one of these days I'll keep on looking at a work stand for these, but I just haven't gone that far yet. So in a full droop setup, even with that stock body, we can see it sits pretty low. It's not super low, but it's fair. I got some clearance. If it's gonna rock, it doesn't look like. Okay, so these are not the stock tires at all. So that's another add in there. But even at a full droop, like here, it looks like there's a little bit of contact with these wheels on this bottom edge, just slightly. And this is a full, you know, there's nothing. If I go all the way up versus all the way down, there's quite a bit of travel. That back end has severe travel. I didn't even realize how much travel it has compared to the front. This is all a learning experience for me. So the idea, from what I understand, of a droop suspension is obviously you're running it lower. So usually you'll have a spring on the outside, and that spring setting can be set to wherever you want it. Now, this shock is fully extended, but the idea of a droop is there's multiple ways to do it. One way I've seen is someone puts a spring inside the shaft here, which will keep this shaft partially in, so it's not extended all the way out. It's not saying that it can't come all the way out, but it will take a little bit more effort than just the spring itself to push this out. Some people swear by it, others, you know, say it's not worth it. Yeah, I don't know. I've never run it. I've never tried it out. Maybe I'll check it out sometime and give it a try. I have a spare set of shocks that I could play around with. I've heard people using pen springs on the inside to put that in between the washer and the end, which it will just keep this up and add that little bit of resistance for the down force instead of just the up force. So you're adding 2 layers of resistance, up and down. Again, I'm new to the RC and new to this truck altogether, but it's been fun, and we're going to give this a check and see how it goes. But right now, we've got that new bumper on there, and what do you think? Come up close. What do we think? What do we think? Add some protection. Fits pretty good. Back end. So it should work pretty good, you know. It's not, I've got to be at a pretty high, completely flat down, and at a, let's see, let's figure out this angle right quick. And we'll see if I can find, let's see, where is it? Well, as you can see with this bumper as it stands, you can get a pretty good angle even before it touches being fully squatted. If I bring this back end up as high as it can go and it's springing, you got quite a bit of angle. So that actually gives me an idea. I mean, how high do you want your back end? Because the higher that back end goes, obviously, the higher angle you can climb without having to worry about that. That's something else to troubleshoot going forward. But we're going to put this truck together and go from there and see. Going to do a little introduction. These springs, for those that are new to this TRX4, I'm brand new. This is one of my first times taking this thing apart. I did a quick little look at it before I dug in too deep, so I wasn't wasting everyone's time, because nobody likes that. You've got multiple different settings. So in the back, for our shocks, if we can see this, we're going to bring you in close. Let's see if you can see where that screw is. There's 4 different settings. So you can move your shocks around a fair amount. to change up your angles. I know it does change your travel. I've played around a little bit with my SEX24 a bit. It can definitely change your ride height. So if I went from here to here, we could just play around with that a little bit and see how that all works out. So let's start with that. This will be an experiment for us both. Now, I usually, like I said earlier, I work with a power tool to make this a little bit faster, but I've worked out most of these screws most of the way anyway, so I don't have as much to run in and out. Yeah, don't do that. Make sure that the end of your shock is down where you need to be, because otherwise you might not be able to articulate it all the way through, and you're going to be like, what's going on? And you have to undo the screw like I almost did right there. So we're learning lessons. We're learning lessons, and they're valuable lessons. So by looking at this right here, we look at these different positions. The one position is here, the other position is there where the screw is, and then we've got here and there. So the height does change a bit, but I'm not sure how much it changes the performance. I don't know if these it's just set up on the rails for different vehicles, and different vehicles use it differently, or if this is something that's intended specifically for the modification of this vehicle or not. I think for now, how much is it? Doesn't, I mean, the change is so, I mean, it's not drastic. If anyone has any input on how you run it, if you run your setup slightly different, please add some comments. Let me know what you're doing in your experience with your setup, and see if, you know, how you crawl. I do most of my crawling just in my backyard. I've been working on trying to set up a course outside. I have a creek out back and a couple acres to play on, so I know everyone doesn't have that, so they have to go someplace, and I generally just keep it at home, make it easy. If it's a bad day and I feel like doing something, I got my indoor course over there, and it's fun. I've had my daughter enjoys it. She'll have her friends over. Her friends get more of a kick out of it, I think, than she does. But you know, kids, they got short attention spans. They like things for a minute, and then next minute, boom, you're done. So we've got that bad boy in there. And if we wanted to run, I'm just looking at the different settings, how different it's going to change the ride height. From there to here, to here, to there. That looks, so the furthest back looks like that would be the highest. Oh, well, maybe not. Maybe that middle point is the highest. This is interesting. So it's going to sit here, from here, to here, to here, to here. If we want to get fancy, we could do some measurements, get an idea how high that's sitting off the axle. So if we're saying sitting up in that top position from there, you're looking at 3 and let's see, 7/8? No, that's like 3 1/4 heavy, we're gonna say. This isn't exactly where it needs to be. And if it's sitting in the other spot, it goes to, that's like 3 3/4. So you're gaining a good 1/8 of an inch, it looks like. Let's double check that. So if I'm sitting at the bottom of this, we're looking at 3 5/8, about 3 5/8, give or take. And then that moves to there, and it goes to like, that's like 3 7/8. Holy moly, that's a pretty significant jump. 3 7/8 to, that's almost, that doesn't seem like it should be. It's almost the same. So that's 3 7/8 at the second. And the third hole is almost, it's almost the same. It's almost identical. I go all the way to the back, we're looking at, it's definitely higher. It's close to 4 inches. It doesn't seem like there's a huge difference in the ride height on the last 3, but that first one all the way up there versus moving back, it definitely changes it. I think we're gonna start off back where it was, and we'll play around with it a little bit more and see what happens. Now, this is not the fun part for anyone on camera, so what I'll do is pause this and not waste your time, because it's not interesting for me to try to get this done. Okay, folks, I'm back. Now, I've got the other side already up. I started on the one side at the body, and then went to the this connection up here, or actually down here, and then vice versa. It doesn't seem that either way was any better or easier to get those in. It seemed pretty equal whether I start at the top or the bottom. But we clean these shocks up, clean the truck up a little bit, put on those bumpers. Okay. So it's coming along, and there's there's a little bit of settle. So if you're noticing when I'm setting it, and this is without the body on, the body's not real heavy, but when I set this down, you're going to notice it sinks. And that's kind of how it should be, from everything I understand, is when you set the body down, the shock should settle a little bit. So that's at a good spot. I push it down, they move, set it down, because even if I just set it down, they sink if I drop it. So that looks like that's pretty good. So we're gonna wrap that up, and let me know what you're thinking. If there's anything you'd like to see or check out or examine or work on, drop a comment, let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time. Thanks all. Have a good one.